left me to do this newspaper review alone, but don't worry, we've got you covered. Inside Kenya's broken parliament, that's the front page of the People Daily. A noisy house with zero solutions. This is an analysis of the 13th parliament, which has been described as one of the weakest ever. You can read more on that on page 4 of this paper. Why Kindiki is struggling to rekindle Ruto's Mount Kenya fortunes, page 5. That's a story on the deputy president. And his main duty was said to be to recollect what President Ruto was said to have lost in the Mount Kenya in terms of support. That story is on page 5 of this paper. Pale juu, how DP choice will be a headache to presidential hopefuls, page 6. And now the delicate balance on how to pick a running mate if you're running for president. That's a big question there. One of the notable presidential candidates, and we'll be looking at least is on the front pages of at least 2 dailies, has already picked a party, but is yet to pick a running mate. So yes, People Daily. Tukienda kwa gazeti nyingine, The Standard. And once again, The Standard steers clear of politics for, I think, the second week now. So, sisemi kitu lakini siku hizi ni kama wataki kuguza siasa. Cocaine Highway, that's the main headline there on the front page of The Standard. And they have an image there of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. They call it an expose. So the airport is a crime scene. Marketed as a model of aviation security, JKIA now stands exposed as a soft underbelly in the global drugs trade. Investigations reveal how a British passport holder, Damata Dos Santos, who's 28-year-old, was waved through checks with cocaine worth millions in his luggage, aided by handlers in uniform and plainclothes. His arrest in London has left Kenya's law enforcement silent, fueling fears that East Africa's busiest hub is in the grip of cartel infiltration. More on page 4 of this paper. Yes, just how the JKIA is being used for drug trafficking. And they give a chronology of events starting from May this year when this foreigner, Damata Dos Santos, he passed through the supposedly highly guarded airport carrying a briefcase packed with class A and B drugs that included cocaine worth millions of shillings. He also did it again in September last year. In June, he was arrested in London and is set to go on trial in December this year. So yes, JKIA may be the travel hub of East Africa, but kuna loopholes hapa na pale. You can read more on that story on page 4, just how this man bribed his way into a London-bound plane carrying drugs in connivance with airport officials. Kama kawaida, walihusika na Wakenya wengine ambao ni maaskari. You see that story that was there on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda about Kenyan activists being abducted? It's there on page 5 of The Standard. 2 Kenyan activists abducted in Uganda. They are Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo. They were on Wednesday abducted in Uganda under unclear circumstances. The true leaders of the Free Kenya movement had traveled to Uganda to join Robert Chagulani, popularly known as Bobby Wine, the country's opposition leader, on his presidential campaign trail. Ni kama hawajafurahisha wale watu wa upande ile ingine, wakaambiwa kuja utulie mahali. Tried and tested, Gideon Moi returns to Baringo politics, I Senate seat. Sitarudia hiyo, na pengine ndio sababu mambo inafanyika tofauti. All right, Uhuru's return splits Jubilee. Hiyo ni story nyingine iko kwenye kurasa za ndani za gazeti la The Standard. Pale nyuma, we have President William Ruto and his deputy Kithure Kindiki, as well as Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria, posing for a photo with some of the medalists from Tokyo, Japan, the World Athletics Championships. Jana, ilifika mahali mpaka rais akatoa handkerchief, akapanguza machozi kidogo, akasema it is a very emotional moment. Alafu watu wakaongea vibaya sana kule kwenye mitandao. Kwa nini sasa kama ni emotions na afadhali anaifanya openly? Si kama watu wengine wako kwa dark room. Tunamkubalia. Dangerous Martin Odegaard has a freedom to shine for Arsenal and for lovers of Champions League. Arsenal beat Olympiacos this week. PSG beat Barcelona. Wengine wenye walipigana ni Dortmund walipiga Athletic Bilbao. Na hizi ni zile tu za wale timu kubwa ambazo zina take part in Champions League. Wengine ambao hawajui masuala ya Champions League watakaa kwa dark room kuenda mbele. That's The Standard. Tuangazie gazeti lingine, Business Daily. Masuala ya biashara sasa. Forged court order rocks SportPesa owners battle. A forged court order was used to lock out businessman Paul Ndongo from participating in a dispute over the fight of betting farm Sport Pesa, placing a top lawyer under criminal investigations for forgery. Very interesting. They used a forged document. So the court has reversed the verdict of a fictitious order, and top lawyer is now under probe over forgery. DCI wanamtafuta kweli kweli. You can read more on page 2 of this paper. KWS revenue blow as court holds higher park entry fees. The KWS had decided that as we head into the holiday season, waka up ile price unalipa ukiingia kwa any game park or game reserve. Foreigners were to pay, I think, 1,000 or 2,000 shillings. Sasa koti imesema, punguza mwendo kwanza. On the ticker, Kenya is in early redemption of 129 billion shilling Eurobond. Na Stanchart retirees seek UK regulator help in pensions row. Today on the life section of the Business Daily, Ambassador Macharia Kamau. Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo sasa. Mimi ndiye dawa. Nani huyu? Aliyekuwa jaji mkuu David Maraga afunua chama atakachotumia kuwania urais mwaka 2027. Ahidi kunyoosha Kenya. Mimi ndiye dawa. Alikuwa jaji mkuu David Maraga amemaliza kimya cha miezi mingi kuhusu chama atakachotumia katika safari yake ya kuwania urais mwaka 2027 kwa kujiunga na chama cha United Green Movement UGM. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Na anasema kati ya ahadi zake ako na ahadi 8 kwa Wakenya: kurekebisha mifumo iliyovunjika, kurejesha utu na heshima ya Wakenya, kuzingatia katiba na utawala wa sheria, kuhakikisha ushirikishaji wa umma yani public participation, kuboresha huduma za afya na elimu, kulinda mali na haki za raia, kuwakilisha vijana na kutimiza matumaini yao, na la mwisho kupambana na ufisadi. Pale UGM, chama atakachotumia kuwania urais mwaka 2027. Nani huyu? Si mwingine bali ni aliyekuwa jaji mkuu David Maraga. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti la Taifa Leo. Ushindi kwa wafanyakazi kuhusu likizo. Koti yasema mfanyakazi ana haki ya kushinikiza kupewa likizo yake ya kila mwaka. Kama hujapata leave, una haki ya kushinikiza kupewa likizo. Ni gazeti imesema, sio mimi. Umaskini tishio kwa wasichana. Wizara yataja umaskini chanzo kikuu cha wasichana kupata ujauzito kaunti ya Kilifi. Na kwingineko, Madagascar wataka rais aondoke. Gen Z sasa wamebadili wimbo na kusisitiza Rais Andry Rajoelina lazima ng'atuke. Uliendaje? Alikuwa very famous kule na very popular, sijui sasa hamtaki tena. Pale juu, usajili wa makurutu wasitishwa. Usajili wa makurutu wa polisi 10,000 kote nchini uliopangiwa kuanza leo wapigwa breki. Kama ulikuwa unataka kuwa askari polisi, itabidi ungoje zaidi. Kwingineko, Arsenal FC yalipa kisasi ila PSG dume. Arsenal wamekuwa na nuksi ya kila mara kurambishwa sakafu nyumbani na Olympiacos tangu mwaka 2025, lakini waliwanyuka mabao 2 bila jibu wiki hii pale Emirates Stadium. Tukiangazia gazeti la The Weekend Star, and we do have a physical copy of this paper, and they ask a question that many people have been meaning to ask. Where's Raila? For weeks now, he's been very quiet. So speculation is rife that former Prime Minister was taken ill, but close associates insist their party boss is in perfect health. The story is on page 6. So, ako wapi? Si ajitokeze tumuone. Page 6 of this paper, where is Raila? Former Prime Minister has been noticeably absent from the public eye for nearly 2 weeks. Wiki mbili tu. Sasa, mimi hata nikipotea wiki mbili mtauliza niko wapi? Ama mtanisahau. This has prompted speculation regarding his health, despite assurances from close allies that he is active and well. Back to the front page. President Ruto wept. Mbona nimecheka lakini? Acha nisicheke. I withdraw that laughter. So where is Raila? And President Ruto wept. Yeah, tears of joy. President William Ruto wipes tears when he hosted the Tokyo 2025 World Athletics Championships team for breakfast at State House, Nairobi on Thursday. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, the President and the CS for Sports posing there with those medalists from Tokyo, Japan. So the President wept. Inakuanga one of the shortest verses, Jesus wept, Sasa, and President Ruto wept. This is not the first time he has done it. immediately after the elections in 2013. He wept in church here in Nairobi. And I think he wept again in a different occasion. So it's been a while, but finally yesterday he did it again. He wept. Kinasema ni tears of joy. Other stories on the front page of this paper: justice delayed. This is burial denied. Tycoon's son still in morgue. This is the body of Luka Korir, the son of Eldoret tycoon, has lain in the 10 County Referral Hospital mortuary for 9 months as his family remains locked in a bitter feud over where he should be buried. Other stories: MPs probe 34 acres prisons land owned by individuals. Yeah. MPs are investigating how 34 acres belonging to the Langata Women's Prison ended up in private hands. That story is on page 8. There's a piece of news that has been the biggest talking point for this week after that Jubilee NDC last week, and it's about Fred Matiangi. That story, ideally, I think, because it features on pages 4 and 5, the spread inside the Star, and usually that story is what features as a main headline. They say, baptism by fire, Matiangi options narrow as former CS faces brutal politics. So Matiangi's options narrow. That's a story on pages 4 and 5 of the Weekend Star. Former Interior CS Fred Matiangi is facing the toughest test of his political life, despite his unveiling as a preferred candidate for the Jubilee Party in the 2027 election. So a lot of politics in this paper, including the Siasa pullout, why the opposition cannot govern and make empty promises to Kenya, and why Uhuru is still a factor in 2027 elections. Calculus. So yes, maswala ya Uhuru Kenyatta and Fred Matiangi in the Weekend Star. It's quite a heavy paper because of the Siasa pullout. Wanazungumzia mambo mengi hapa. So that's a Weekend Star. Fresh, independent, different. If you have 60 shillings, you can grab a copy of this paper. Daily Nation sasa, inside a bungled hiring of 10,000 police officers. Yes. We have a physical copy here. A protracted power struggle between police chiefs and the National Police Service Commission, linked to control over staffing, and a 60 billion shilling payroll finally spilled into court, where a judge suspended recruitment of constables that was set to begin today. The bone of contention is whether the commission is mandated by the Constitution to recruit. That story is on page 4 and 5 of this paper, and there they use images of the National Police Service Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and the National Police Service Commission Chairperson Dr. Yuda Komora. The former Chief Justice David Maraga also features on the front page of the Daily Nation and says, "This is my promise to change Kenya." Eye on State House, the former Chief Justice, who shook the country with a landmark verdict nullifying the outcome of the presidential poll in 2017, yesterday formally declared his bid for high office, anchoring his campaign on justice and fidelity to the Constitution. You can read more on pages 6 and 7 of this paper. And on page 7, we have Maraga picking the party for 2027 bid, and he vows to rebuild Kenya. He says the United Green Movement, which is his party of choice, is aligned with his values and governance aspirations. Would you vote for David Maraga as president come 2027? That's just one of the questions many people are asking. Why is opposition suspicious of Kioni? Ile shida ya Jubilee bado inaendelea. United Opposition na Kioni bado wana exchange maneno hapa na pale. Maswali mengine hapa. Ruto and Raila partnership could stretch beyond 2027, say allies, but Raila is missing, as we learned on the front page of the Star. On the back page, President Ruto confirms 27 million shilling reward and affordable houses for Tokyo medalists. Now this, once again, the affordable houses have been given. President William Ruto lauded athletes who represented Kenya in Japan during this breakfast meeting in State House, where he incidentally wept. The head of state announced that the government cash reward for the medalists from the Tokyo Championships, totaling 27 millions, has already been deposited in their accounts. The president added that the government will pay half the cost of an affordable house of choice for all the 7 gold medalists. Remember, police were promised 20% of the affordable housing. Teachers, when they went to State House, were promised 20% of the affordable housing. Kuna wengine sasa, wale Harambee Stars wakaambiwa pia watapewa some affordable houses. Kuna wengine sasa hapa wametoka Tokyo, Japan, pia wameambiwa watapewa nyumba. Hizi nyumba mkicheza hazitafika 2027, zitakwisha zote. So kama unaweza toka mbio saa hii upewe affordable house. Kama unaweza cheza mpira, piga sakata kadanda proper upate nyumba hata wewe. Sababu vile kunaenda ni kama zitakwisha. Daily Nation this Friday. Aha. Masaa inakimbia. 23 minutes past the hour. We've taken a look at most of the dailies. Let's take a look at the cartoons. And we have the cartoon on the People Daily.